Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be changing the engine oil of the XK8. Now you may be thinking, just another oil change video, but even if you're someone who has done this on your vehicle for years, you may still find some valuable tips and tricks here in my process, and I urge you to stick around. Now, first things first, get your engine warmed up a little bit. It's a recommendation. If it's 30 degrees outside, it's not necessary, but if it's cold, get the engine warm a little bit so the oil flows easier. That's probably your first step. Your next step is to make sure that you can pour the new oil in before you drain the oil out. So let's open the hood. You have several failure points here, potential failure points, right? The handle, the cable, the latches, and we have two latches to worry about, right? One is here, the other one's on the other side. Those could potentially fail. I've actually seen owners complaining about failing latches and unable to open the hood. So make sure you can open the hood, make sure you can remove the cap. It's not too tight, right? And you can open it. You don't know who's been here last, right? Especially if you haven't been changing the oil yourself, somebody else did it. They may have tightened this so much that you may have trouble taking it off. If you have trouble removing the cap, you can try putting on thick gloves to give you a bit more sort of torque in your hands. You can try with a cloth on top. As a last resort, you could try something like this if nothing else works, and hopefully you never have to do this, but again, as a last resort, this would be an option to give you more leverage in removing the cap. Next, I like to check the color of the existing old oil as a point of reference. You can do that by pulling out the dipstick and wiping it off. You could also get an idea of wiping the cap off a bit of paper and take a look at the oil. You don't want it to be too black, too dark. This is decent, I would say. Another thing that you may want to do now that you have it open is to take a look inside at the metal surfaces and make sure that you see them nice and clear like this, rather than gummed up and discolored, in a sense that on certain engines you may see a brownish tint over the metal, which indicates that the oil has not been changed often enough. The engine has gone through prolonged oil change intervals. Here you can see how clean the metal is, and this is a very healthy looking engine in terms of its oil change intervals. And now you're ready to start the draining of the old oil. It's as easy as that. Everything is so easily accessible from underneath that you don't really need to lift the car up in the air. However, that idea only works if you have an oil catch can that is low profile and slim enough to be able to slide under the vehicle. Unfortunately, mine cannot do that. It's a bit too high and I cannot get it under the car. I would say you want a container that will hold comfortably 15, maybe even 20 liters. And those containers are usually bigger and they cannot slide under the car. So I will be raising the car up in the air, and then we'll proceed with the draining part. Raising the vehicle in the air is probably the hardest part of the whole process. If you have a sloped driveway, you may choose to drive the car up onto ramps, and this way you don't have to lift the back, you just lift the front until the car is level and proceed from there. If you don't have ramps, you can jack up the front, but again, leverage the slope of the driveway to your advantage. The downside of this approach is that you end up changing the oil outside and you're susceptible to wind. And the problem with the wind is twofold. One, while the oil is draining down, if it's windy, it will likely splash left and right. It won't all fall into the catch can. You're going to make a mess on your driveway. The second problem, which to me is more sort of concerning, is that the wind could pick up some dust and debris off the ground, push those under the vehicle, and when you have the filter removed or the drain plug removed, essentially you are providing openings for dust and debris to enter the engine and to get stuck inside the engine, which is definitely something you do not want to do. Let's take a look underneath. Everything will be taking place in this front corner of the vehicle, sort of under the airbox. All right, there's a drain plug, and above there you can see the filter as well. So to get to the filter, we need to remove this plastic air scoop, which basically serves to capture air flowing under the vehicle and direct it upwards. Let me turn the light on here. There we go. Through here, the air goes upwards to cool the alternator of the vehicle so that it doesn't overheat. So this is an important piece. Don't lose it. If you don't have one, try to find one and put it back on. But yeah, you want to see this plastic air scoop be present down here. It's held by only one single bolt. This is 7mm. So let's take that off now. There it is. Okay, when the bolt is out, what you want to do here is pull this plastic piece back a little bit so that the front clips release. They hold onto the metal here. So let's try to pull this back a bit. There we go. Right, so you see over here now how the clips have released, and now we can sort of fish this out. You can just pull forward, and as it comes forward, it will twist downwards. There we go, and it comes out. Pretty straightforward. There is the intake here, essentially a small air intake that directs the air upwards. And now from down here, you have perfect access to the filter. So the drain plug is accessible, the filter is accessible, we can start draining. This is completely optional, but if the area close to the drain plug and the filter is contaminated and quite dirty, I would recommend you spray it with parts cleaner and wipe it down a bit before you proceed to remove the drain plug. There's some parts cleaner. I'll just spray it up here. There we go. Wipe it down. Right, so that you have a clean surface around the drain plug. And by doing this, do that for the plug and the filter as well. You're then preventing a potential of pushing some debris into the engine by accident as you continue your work down the line, right? We'll be moving our hands around here, and you don't want to have anything close to this opening. You may have noticed the drain plug that's on the car right now and thought, wait a minute, that's not original. And you'd be right. This is the original plug that came with the vehicle. And this plug has this rubber silicone type of gasket here, which according to the instructions is supposed to be changed every time with every oil change. Now, I can't find a gasket like this. I can't source one anymore here, at least where I am, and that's why it's not leaking. I could just keep using this. I don't think it would be a problem, but I decided, let me take this out, keep it on the side. And I bought an aftermarket plug, which is magnetic. And on that plug, I use copper washers. I'll show you the washer when I take it out. And with the copper washers, on all my cars so far for decades, I've been using copper washers, never had any issues with any leaks. Now this is, if yours is original, this is 13 millimeters, the original one. My aftermarket one is 14 millimeters, so I'll be using a 14 to remove it, but the original one, at least for my vehicle, was 13 millimeter, if that's what you need to remove from your car. Now the clearance here is a little bit tight, and you may want, this is the problem here, and you may want to use a longer socket. Okay. Now, this may get a bit messy, and what you may want to do is, you could try to save the plug, but if you want, you can just drop it in the oil. That's fine. We'll retrieve it after. I'll see what I can do here, but if I drop it, I drop it. You see the oil starting to drip a little bit. Now, as I'm taking the plug out, I'm actually keeping a bit of pressure inwards towards the oil pan. So right now the plug is out, the thread is out, but you see that it's not leaking fully yet because I'm keeping the pressure inward. Now I will quickly pull out the plug and let the oil come out. There it is. And yeah, use gloves because you don't want the used oil all over your skin. Let this drain as long as it needs. The oil is slowing down, and you can see the washer that I was talking about here. I'm not going to take it out. You can totally reuse this. You don't have to throw it out. It can just stay. You can reuse it as many times as you need to. It will never leak. The oil has stopped dripping completely. But of course, we always ask ourselves, well, is that the best we can do? Can we get a little bit more of the old oil out? Now, you may notice that the drain hole is at the front of the oil pan. So how about we try to lift the car further at the back, to sort of tilt it forward, and see if a little bit more oil could come out from this pan. Let's give that a try. The question now is, can we do any better than this? And this is where we're going to take things to the next level. Let me show you what I mean. So by raising the back of the car further than the front, we were able to get a little bit extra old oil to flow out. And now, in order to take this to the next level, here's what I do. I get an old hair dryer, and I force air into the engine from the top, which air provides some pressure going down, passing through all the passages, and basically rinses out all the remaining old oil down to the bottom and out of the drain hole. Now, this is another process where you don't want to do outside. Essentially, you'll be sucking in ambient air and forcing it into the engine. You don't want that air to be dusty or contaminated with pollen or whatever else may be in the air outside. Work in a location where things are clean, things are tidy. So I will place the phone at the bottom, monitoring the drain hole, and then I'll start with the hair dryer here, and we'll see if some more oil would come out. Removing the cap, and there we go. You may hear how I'm pulsing the hairdryer in and out, where in means I bring it closer until it essentially touches the opening. This should be enough. All right, at this point, we're done with the drain hole. I'm going to clean it up a bit. Just here at the bottom. There we go. And I'm going to close with the plug. You see the magnet? Don't cross thread it. There we go. Now we need to torque to the right spec. And once this is fully closed, we're gonna move over to the filter, which is a bit messier. Now, the thing about the filter is that once you loosen it, some oil will drip from there, and unfortunately, it tends to hit this cross member here. And once it does, it tends to then leak left and right along the cross member. Now, if your car is raised more at the back at this point, like we did earlier, the oil won't really go far up that way too much, but it may come down. So I've put a bit of paper here to limit that travel and not to continue going all over the place. If your car is completely level, you may want to have some paper or cloth pieces on both sides so that you kind of contain that leaking oil as it comes down. In terms of releasing the filter, again, it depends on who was there last, right? People may have over tightened it and you just would not be able to unscrew it with bare hands. If you yourself did it, chances are you should be able to unscrew it with bare hands. But if you absolutely have to, of course, you can use one of those tools that are specifically designed for removing oil filters. So I'll go ahead and loosen the filter now, and we'll be right back. You may want to have a glove on to protect your skin, and then there it goes. You see, this is what I mean. It just goes on that cross member. Keep your, of course, pan underneath. Lots of oil coming out. No need to rush this. It's almost out. Oh boy, there we go. Overall, not too bad. Try to keep it vertical, like so. There we go. Now there's a lot of oil in the filter, so as you clear the cross member, you can just dump it back. All right, these are the filters that I use. We're not going to get into a discussion. Are they good? What's the best filter? What's the best oil? And so on. That's not the purpose of this video, but those are the filters that I use. There's a big debate on this. Should you pre-fill your new filter with oil before you put it onto the car? And again, I don't want to get into this here. I would say this: if the filter was being mounted vertically like this, right? And if I mount it vertically and screw it in, I would probably pre-fill it with oil, might as well. But our filters are mounted horizontally, as you saw, and there's no way to really fill it with oil. Maybe you can put a quarter of its capacity in, maybe a third, but then some of it again would leak out as you're screwing it in. It just gets messy. So I don't bother putting oil in the filter before I put it on the car. You may choose to do it differently, but those are just my thoughts on it. Before you put the new filter back in, you may want to carefully just wipe the mating surface right there, the round circumference. Just wipe it gently definitely with a clean cloth before you thread the new filter back in. I'll clean the cross member so that I have a clear path here as I'm getting the new filter in its place. All right, now that everything is clean and there's no further dripping, I'll push the pan a little bit further away so that I can work here and guide the new filter in. You can see the wetness on the gasket is done, and I would usually go through here, right here, guide it up, and then turn it right here. There we go. Again, be careful not to cross thread it. Don't rush this. There we go. And I just hand tighten. I don't use any tools for tightening. The last step here at the bottom under the vehicle is to put the air scoop in place. Don't forget this, folks. And if you do your oil changes at an independent shop or at the dealer, anywhere else, make sure they don't forget it. These things go missing often, and it's not something you want to see happen to your vehicle. So bring it here, hook it on top of the cross member. As you turn, you would push it back a bit towards the air scoop, and there it goes. So you see the air scoop there at the back. We need to go over it. That's it. And you push a bit further back so that these clips here can go into place. Then you pull forward. You're done. Right? There it is. Simple as that. And now you just have to put the bolt in here. Use the ratchet. Done. Now we can go upstairs. Everything is buttoned up at the bottom, so now we're ready to pour the fresh oil in. Before we do that, if you raised your car further at the back to drain a bit extra oil, now is the time to bring it back down so that the vehicle is level, because we want to get an accurate reading from the dipstick here. All right, 6.5 liters need to go in here. Make sure your funnel is nice and clean. There's no debris in it or any leftover other types of oil that you may have used this for. When you're filling, it's okay if it's a little bit under filled, because you can always easily add some additional oil. If you overfill it, that's more of a problem, because removing oil that's already in the engine is much tougher. You don't want to have to go through that process. So be on the safe side. If you have to put a little bit less, and after we run the engine and we let the oil circulate, shut down the engine, we measure. If it's a bit low, we can always add a tiny bit to level it off where we want it to be. After you pour the oil, just in case, make sure there are no leaks underneath, everything is dry. If you're working in the garage, make sure the door is open because you don't want any fumes to stagnate inside the garage. And now you can go ahead and start the engine. Check rear lights because I have LEDs at the back. Bonnet open, which is expected. 75,900 kilometers on the odometer. And let's get this engine started. This light over there is for the handbrake because the handbrake is engaged. No other lights on the dash. All right, let it work for a few seconds. You can again check down here, make sure that there are no drips from the filter or the plug. Once the engine has idled for a few seconds, turn it off. We'll give it some more time for the oil to fully drain down, and once it does, then we will check the level with the dipstick. Now that the oil has had a couple of minutes to fully drain down, I can check the level again. First I'll wipe the dipstick completely clean, put it back all the way down, and now I can take a look at the level. It's a bit hard to see because the oil is very transparent, it's very clean, but I'm right now just below halfway. So if I want to be exactly in the middle, I need to add in a tiny bit more oil, which is fine, and then I'll be golden. With this, your oil change procedure is basically done. You can now bring the car back down on the ground and congratulate yourself on a job well done. Before I leave you, just some closing remarks, folks. Please do dispose of the old oil properly. Bring it to your recycling center. At least here in Canada, this is free. There is no charge for it. You can pour it back into the empty bottles, right? Pour it back in here, bring this to the center, and have them recycle it properly. Do not pollute the environment. This is toxic stuff, and yeah, we don't want it just out and about anywhere in the environment. All right. I hope you got something out of this. I hope this was beneficial. Very easy process overall. You can skip a lot of the sort of optional and recommended steps that I introduced. You can just stick to the basics if you want to. But overall, an enjoyable process. If this is a hobby for you, it's something that you can very easily do. And like I said, you'll be proud of it at the end. All right, folks, take care.